The night on planet Duro 5 was always silent. Cold winds blew across the dusty ground, and the sky above was full of stars. Jackson lived alone in a small outpost far from the main colony. He was a human trader, strong and quiet. He had a metal hut, solar panels, food supplies, and an old hoverbike. He liked peace. He didn't like trouble. But that night something felt strange. Jackson had a habit. Before sleeping, he always checked his storage room. It was where he kept food, water, tools, and trade goods. When he opened the door, his eyes narrowed. Some food packs were missing. Strange, he said softly. He checked again. Yes. 3 protein bars, 1 water can, and a flashlight were gone. Jackson's hands tightened. He didn't believe in ghosts. This was theft. But how? No sound. No damage to the door. He had set up a small motion camera on the corner roof just in case. He turned on the screen. Black and white footage flickered. For a while, nothing. Then, movement. Jackson leaned closer. A figure moved in the dark. Small, fast, thin arms, long legs. Not human. The person opened the storage quietly, took things carefully, and then ran away into the night. It was an alien, and not just any alien. A female, young, weak. Her body looked tired, almost shaking. Behind her, a smaller shape followed. Maybe a child. Jackson froze. He watched again. This wasn't just stealing. It looked like desperation. She's not stealing, he whispered. She's surviving. Still, he couldn't ignore it. What if others came next? Grabbing his jacket and flashlight, he climbed on his hoverbike. He followed the trail. The dusty footprints were light but clear enough under the moonlight. The wind was cold against his face. He followed for 10 minutes. The trail led behind a ridge near old mining ruins. That's where he saw her, the alien. Mother was lying on the ground. Her skin was pale blue and her body was thin like she hadn't eaten in days. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She was holding a small child close to her chest. The little one, maybe 4 or 5 years old, was also weak, eyes half closed. Jackson stopped. The alien mother looked up. Her eyes were big and dark, full of fear. She tried to stand, but fell, again. She pushed the child behind her as if to protect her. "Don't hurt us," she whispered. Her voice was rough and shaking. "Please." Jackson raised both hands slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." No answer. The child looked at him scared. "I saw you. On the camera, you took food." The alien mother nodded. "I'm sorry, I didn't want to steal my child. She's hungry, we had no choice." Jackson stood silently. He looked at the girl. Her lips were dry. Her ribs were showing. "Why? Didn't you go to the colony?" he asked. "They would turn us in. We are not welcome there." She lowered her head. "They think we are thieves." Jackson took a deep breath. He looked back at his bike, then down at the broken alien in front of him. "I should report you," he said. The alien closed her eyes. "Then do it." Silence filled the air. Then, Jackson took off his jacket and walked forward. He placed it gently on the alien mother. "Can you walk?" he asked. She looked at him, confused. "What?" I said, "Can you walk? I'm taking you back." "Back? Where?" "To my shelter," Jackson said. "You need food. The girl needs rest." Tears filled her eyes. She didn't understand. Why would a human help her? "I don't have many rules," Jackson said, "but one of them is children should never starve." He picked up the little girl in his arms. She was light as a feather. The mother tried to stand, her legs shaking. He helped her climb onto the back of the hoverbike. As they rode back, wind blowing through their hair, the child slowly opened her eyes and whispered one word. "Safe?" Jackson looked down at her and gave a small nod. "Yes, safe." The smell of warm soup filled the small metal shelter. Risa, the alien mother, sat on the edge of the bed, her arms tightly wrapped around her sleeping daughter. Her hands trembled not from cold, but from something deeper. She couldn't remember the last time she felt safe indoors. She watched the human, Jackson, move quietly around the room, pouring water, checking the heater, and putting a clean blanket near her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't shout. He simply helped. Why? Back on her home planet, humans were a story, a warning. Be careful, the elders said. Humans are cold, dangerous. They build machines with hearts, made of fire. But this man, he had given her food. She looked at the soup bowl beside her. Her stomach screamed for it. But she didn't move. Instead, she reached out, took a small spoonful, and brought it to her daughter's mouth. The little girl opened her lips, still half asleep, and swallowed. Jackson saw it. You haven't eaten, he said quietly. Risa looked up, startled. She needs it more than I do. Jackson sat down across from her. You both need it. That's not a choice you should have to make. Risa said nothing. Her body was weak, her pride broken. I don't understand, Jackson said. How did you end up here? This far from the colony? Risa looked away. The truth was ugly and it hurt to speak it, but maybe this human deserved the truth. There was a storm 2 weeks ago. The supply ship didn't come, no food, no clean water. The humans in the colony said they couldn't help outsiders. We were told to leave the shelter. She clenched, her fists. They said my kind were parasites, thieves, unwanted. We ran into the wild and tried to find help, but no one came. Jackson's jaw tightened. He remembered when he first came to this planet. The officials had told him the same thing. Don't get involved with the locals, they're trouble. But this wasn't trouble. This was a mother and her child starving in the dirt. You almost died last night, he said. Risa nodded slowly. I knew the risk, but I had to try. Jackson got up and opened a small locker. He pulled out 2 more food packs and dropped them on the table. No more stealing. If you need something, ask. I won't say no. But I don't want lies. Risa's eyes widened. You're letting us stay? I didn't say that, Jackson replied, then added, but I'm not throwing you out either. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. Hours passed. Risa washed her face with warm water. The child, her name was Ailey, slept peacefully on a soft bedroll. Jackson worked outside, fixing the solar panel and scanning the radio for any alerts. Inside, Risa looked around the small shelter. Everything was clean, organized. Tools on the wall, books stacked in a corner. A quiet machine in the corner hummed gently, air purifier. She couldn't help but feel small. This man had everything, and yet he had shared it with her. Why? Her people would never believe this. They had suffered too long. And yet, this human, he had given her a blanket, soup, and safety. Maybe. Not all humans were fire-hearted. That night, as the cold winds howled outside, Jackson sat by the heater with a cup of tea. Risa joined him, wrapping a blanket around herself. She's stronger now, she whispered. Jackson nodded. I'll teach you how to boil water safely, he said, and how to grow food with the hydro box. It's slow, but better than starving. Risa didn't expect that. You'd teach me? You're going to need to take care of her. I can't do everything, Jackson replied. For the first time, Risa gave a small, tired smile. You know, on my world, humans were monsters in stories. Jackson chuckled. On my world, aliens were the same. They both sat in silence. 2 different beings. Same pain. Same cold wind outside. But inside, for the first time, there was warmth. Jackson woke up to the sound of soft humming. Not a machine. A voice. He opened his eyes and saw something unexpected. Risa, the alien mother, gently singing to her daughter while combing her tangled hair. The tune was low and strange. Not human, but beautiful. For a moment, it made him forget they were on a harsh, lonely planet. She noticed him watching and quickly stopped, her eyes lowering in embarrassment. "I used to sing this when she was in my belly," Risa said quietly. "I thought I'd never sing it again." Jackson stretched his arms and sat up. "Don't stop. It was nice." It was the first peaceful morning since she arrived. But peace doesn't last long on Duro 5. There was a knock at the outer gate. Risa tensed. She grabbed Ailey and pulled her behind a chair, her body still weak but ready to shield her child again. Jackson moved to the monitor and checked the camera feed. It was one of the colony men, Darren, a local mechanic and part-time enforcer. Jackson stepped out and shut the door behind him. "Morning," Darren said with a friendly grin. "Weird request. Anyone come around here lately? Some aliens missing from the food camp." Jackson kept his face still. "I haven't seen anyone." Darren narrowed his eyes. Just asking. You're far out here, so I figured you'd spot them before anyone else. They're saying some of them are stealing." "Not my problem," Jackson replied calmly. Darren leaned closer. "If you do see one, report it, yeah? We've been told to round them up before more trouble starts. You know how it is." Jackson nodded but said nothing. Darren finally turned and walked back to his crawler. Inside the shelter, Risa stood by the wall, holding her child tightly. Her eyes searched Jackson's face. "They're looking for us, aren't they?" Jackson locked the door and sighed. "Yes." She sat down slowly, defeated. "You should have handed us over. You still can." "I'm not that kind of man." "But you barely know me," she said. Jackson sat across from her. "I know enough. I know a mother fighting to keep her child alive doesn't deserve to be hunted like an animal." Risa looked at him for a long time, then said softly, "Trust is expensive on my planet. That's why we never give it." "Well," Jackson said, "here." That afternoon, Jackson gave Risa a small gardening box. It was old tech, hydro grow system for vegetables. "This'll help," he said. "You won't have to rely on rations. It takes time, though." She listened carefully, soaking in every instruction. But when she touched the tools, her hand shook and she accidentally dropped the nutrient pipe. "Sorry," she whispered. "It's fine," Jackson said, kneeling to fix it. "No, it's not," she snapped suddenly. "You gave me kindness, and I repay it with broken things. I'm tired, clumsy, weak." Jackson looked at her firmly. "You're alive. That's all that matters right now." She stared at him, and for the first time, didn't look away. That evening, Ailey drew something on a piece of scrap paper. She brought it to Jackson with a shy smile. It was a drawing of 3 stick figures, one tall human, one alien with blue skin, and one little girl holding both their hands. Jackson's chest tightened. He taped it to the wall. "Looks like I've been adopted," he said with a smirk. Risa laughed, a soft musical sound he hadn't heard before. Maybe trust was expensive. But sometimes it only took one act of kindness to start paying for it. The silence was shattered by the scream of engines overhead. Risa dropped the tool in her hand. Ailey froze in the doorway. Jackson was already outside, eyes scanning the sky. A black patrol ship hovered low, its lights sweeping across the dusty ground like angry eyes. They had come inside. "Now," Jackson ordered. Risa grabbed Ailey and rushed into the hidden basement trapdoor Jackson had prepared days ago. It was just a hole under the floor, lined with insulation and covered by a metal hatch. It wasn't meant for comfort. It was meant for survival. Jackson shut the hatch just as the ship landed. Dust blew everywhere. The engines whined down, and 2 armored men stepped out, colony enforcers. Their suits were polished, weapons charged, helmets reflecting the sun. "Jackson," one of them barked. He walked out calmly, hands open. "Something I can help with?" The lead enforcer, Officer Creel, pulled out a data pad. 2 alien females escaped the refugee camp, stole medical supplies and food. They were seen heading east. That points to your direction. Jackson shrugged. I haven't seen anyone. Creel narrowed his eyes. Mind if we look around? I do, Jackson replied. This is independent trade land. You need a warrant. Creel stepped closer. And if I say we're doing it anyway? Jackson's voice turned cold. Then I say get off my property before this becomes a bigger problem than it needs to be. The silence between them stretched. Finally, Creel smirked. Fine. But if you're hiding someone, anything happens to you, that's on your head. They returned to their ship, dust rising again as they lifted off and vanished toward the mountains. Inside the hidden hatch, Rissa held her daughter close, her heart pounding. Ailey whispered, Mama, I'm scared. I know, little one, she said, but we must stay quiet. For him. When the hatch opened, light poured in. Jackson looked down at them. Rissa's eyes met his, filled with guilt. I heard everything, she said. You could have been arrested or worse. He helped her out gently. I've handled worse. But why? Jackson wiped the sweat from his brow. I've seen enough to know good people don't always wear the right skin. Rissa blinked. She had expected fear, maybe regret. Instead, he handed her a bottle of water and said, We need to move. This place isn't safe anymore. Rissa looked around the shelter. Her daughter's drawings on the wall, the warmth of the tiny stove, the plants just starting to grow. It feels like a home, she whispered. Jackson nodded. That's why they'll come again. By night, they packed quietly. Jackson loaded tools, food, blankets onto the hover cart. Ailey hugged her doll. Rissa carried the hydro-grow box. They traveled under the stars, avoiding colony sensors, sticking to the old mining trails. Hours passed. Finally, they reached a cave, deep, cool, hidden by rocks. It wasn't much, but Jackson had stored backup. Supplies there months ago. We stay here until it's clear, he said. I'll build us some walls. You'll help. Rissa smiled faintly. Yes, I will. That night, as Ailey slept safely in a corner, Rissa sat beside Jackson by a small fire. I was wrong about humans, she said. Some of you are not fire-hearted. Some of you burn just enough to keep others warm. Jackson chuckled. That's the nicest insult I've ever gotten. She laughed too, the sound echoing softly in the cave. But neither of them noticed. The drone camera watching from above, its red light blinking. The enforcers would be back and next time they wouldn't knock. The child's cough broke the night. It echoed through the cave like a warning bell. Rissa rushed to Ailey's side, her hand on the girl's forehead. Burning. Too hot. She's sick, Rissa whispered, panic in her voice. She's burning up. Jackson was already on his feet. He checked her pulse, her breathing. The little girl's lips were dry and cracked. Her eyes fluttered half open, then closed again. Jackson's heart sank. She needs real medicine, he said. I know, Rissa said, voice cracking. But we don't have any. We will, Jackson replied. He left before sunrise. Rissa stood at the cave entrance, holding Ailey close, watching his hoverbike disappear into the fog. She felt something strange in her chest. Fear. Not for herself, but for the man who had no reason to risk his life for them, and still did. Jackson rode hard and fast, not toward the colony, but toward an old contact, someone who didn't ask questions. Her name was Vexa, a black market trader who once owed Jackson a favor. She lived in the ruins of an old mining dome, surrounded by scrap bots and silent machines. Jackson parked outside and walked in. Vexa, a tall woman with silver eyes and half-mechanical arms, leaned against the wall with a smirk. Didn't think I'd see you again, she said. What do you need this time? Medicine, Jackson said. Child strength fever suppressant. Clean water serum. Credits? She asked. He tossed her a small pouch. Everything I've got. She opened it, frowned. That's barely enough for one dose. Jackson stepped closer. You know I'm good for more. Vexa narrowed her eyes. Who's the kid? Not yours to worry about. I don't trade in sympathy, Jackson. And I don't beg, he growled. You, help me now, or you lose a future customer. And maybe a friend. Vexa stared at him silent for a moment. Then she sighed and reached under her table. She handed him a small silver box. This is all I've got that fits. He nodded. Thanks. As he turned to leave, she called out, You're changing, Jackson. Maybe, he said. Or maybe I'm just remembering who I was. Back in the cave, Ailey was worse. She was mumbling in her sleep, her forehead soaked in sweat. Rissa rocked her gently, whispering old songs from her homeworld, tears in her eyes. She didn't hear the soft hum of the bike until it stopped just outside. Jackson rushed in, out of breath, holding the medicine box. She'll be okay, he said. Just let me. Rissa grabbed his arm, eyes wide. You got it? He nodded and quickly opened the box, pulling out the vial and injector. Ailey whimpered. Rissa held her tight. Jackson gently pressed the injector to the girl's neck and released the serum. A soft hiss, then silence. Minutes passed. Then slowly. Ailey's breathing calmed. Her face relaxed. The fever began to fall. Rissa collapsed beside her, her body shaking with relief. She's going to live, she whispered. Jackson sat beside them, exhausted. She'll need rest. Fluids, but yeah, she'll live. Rissa looked at him with tears in her eyes. You risked everything. For us. Jackson leaned back against the cave wall. No child should suffer just because the galaxy is cruel. But why? She asked. Why do this for me? He was quiet for a moment, then said softly, Because once, someone did the same for me. Rissa didn't speak again. She simply reached for his hand, and for the first time, he didn't pull away. Outside the cave, wind howled across the barren hills. A small tracker beacon blinked near the rocks, dropped unknowingly from Jackson's hoverbike. It sent one soft pulse into the air, and far away, in a dark control room. Someone received it. The enforcers had found them again, and this time they were not coming to talk. The ground shook before the sound even reached them. Dust trickled from the cave ceiling. Jackson's eyes snapped open. Rissa sat up instantly, her instincts screaming. Ailey stirred beside her, still weak but better than before. Then came the sound, a deep, thunderous roar from above. Jackson ran to the cave entrance and saw it, a patrol ship, sleek, black, and armed, hovering low in the sky, its engines loud, its guns glowing red. They found us, he muttered. Rissa stood behind, him face pale. What do we do? Jackson's voice was cold and calm. We don't run, we defend. 10 minutes earlier, in the Enforcer command room, Officer Creel slammed a fist onto the table. I knew he was hiding something, he growled, pointing. At the blinking dot on the tracker map. Prep the ship, he ordered. Full sweep. Arrest orders are canceled. If they resist, take them out. Back in the cave, Jackson opened a hidden box buried beneath a pile of rocks. Inside were old weapons, dusty, forgotten tech from an old war he never spoke about. Rissa stared in shock. You were a soldier? No, Jackson replied. I was worse. I was good at it. He handed her a stun baton and showed her how to use it. I'll hold the mouth of the cave, he said. You take the left wall. Don't fire unless they... See you? Rissa nodded. She wasn't strong, but she would fight. For her child. The patrol ship landed hard. Dust exploded into the air. 6 enforcers stepped out, guns raised. Come out now, Creel shouted through a megaphone. Last warning. Jackson didn't reply. Instead, he aimed his old plasma rifle from behind a boulder and fired the first shot. The impact knocked one enforcer flat. Chaos exploded. Rissa ducked behind the rocks and waited. Ailey hid deep in the back of the cave, curled up with her doll. Lasers tore across the entrance. Jackson moved like lightning, every shot precise. He didn't aim to kill, just to stop them. They're not listening, he yelled. I didn't think they would, Risa shouted back. An explosion shook the cave wall. Part of the ceiling collapsed near Risa, but she jumped away in time. One enforcer made it through the smoke and entered the cave. He raised his weapon toward Ailey. Risa screamed and charged him. Her stun baton struck the enforcer's armor. A crackle of energy knocked him down. She stood between him and her daughter, shaking but still standing. Jackson threw a flash grenade, blinding the last two attackers. Then, silence. The enforcers were down. Smoke and dust filled the cave entrance. Jackson's arms shook as he lowered his rifle. It was over. Later, as Risa cleaned Ailey's scraped arm, Jackson stood at the edge of the hill watching the patrol ship. It was smoking. Useless now. I can't stay here anymore, he said. They'll keep coming. And next time, they'll send more. Risa walked up beside him. Then we go. Together. He looked at her. That means hiding, running, living off scraps. I've done it before, she said. But this time I won't be alone. Jackson didn't answer, but he didn't say no. That night, they left the cave behind. They walked into the dark, across rocks and sand, leaving their shelter, their warmth, and their safety. But they walked. As a unit, one human, one alien mother, one child, and the stars above them seemed just a little closer. The sun was rising over the dead rocks of Duro 5 when Risa whispered the words Jackson would never forget. You saved my child. You gave her food. My people will not forget this. Jackson stared at her. Dirt covered his boots. A burn mark still smoked on his jacket. Behind them, the patrol ship remained crippled, broken, and silent. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like a warning. They'll come again, he said. Bigger, better armed. We can't fight forever. Risa nodded. Then maybe it's time. We stop running. Jackson blinked. What are you saying? I'm saying I know where others are hiding, she said. My people. Not all of them are gone. They left the hills that night, heading toward the Dusk Scar, a canyon full of shadows and legends. Few humans had ever gone there. The stories said it was cursed, but Risa knew better. She had been there once, years ago, as a child. Her people had hidden deep inside the scar after the humans pushed them out of the main settlements. Broken families, silent mothers, starving children, they never forgot, but they also never fought back. Until now. It took 3 days. Jackson, Risa, and little Ailey crossed the wastelands by foot. Jackson carried Ailey on his shoulders when her legs gave out. Risa guided them, remembering turns from memory, the shape of stone, the wind's direction, the scent of old campfires. At night, Jackson stood watch, while Risa sang soft songs to her daughter. And slowly, something new grew between them. Not romance, not friendship, something deeper, trust built on shared survival. On the 4th morning they saw them, shadows moving among the rocks, eyes glowing faintly. When Risa stepped forward, 3 figures rose. Tall, lean, draped in cloth and armor made from old ship scraps. They raised their weapons. Risa raised her hands. I bring a message, she called. And a man. Inside the cave settlement, of the exiled aliens, dozens of eyes watched as Jackson entered. Some hissed, others whispered. Ailey clung to his leg, unafraid. Risa stood before them and told the story. She told them how she had stolen from a human, how she had collapsed, how he fed her child instead of turning them in, how he fought armed enforcers. For them. Some doubted. He's human, one elder growled. Their kind pushed us here. Risa didn't flinch. Yes, but he didn't. He built his life away from the colony. He gave when others took. He risked his life for a child not his own. The cave was silent. Then, from the back, a voice spoke. I saw what happened from the ridge. The fight. He didn't shoot to kill. He fought to protect. Another voice. He gave food? Real food? Risa nodded. And medicine. The oldest among them, a wrinkled alien with silver eyes, stepped forward. "Jackson of Earth," she said. "You fed our future. What do you ask of us?" Jackson looked at them, unsure how to speak. Finally he said, "I don't want a war. I just want them, Risa and her daughter, to live. But if you do fight back, I'll stand with you." The old one studied him, then nodded. "We will not fight to destroy, but we will stand if we must. And now we stand. With you." Drews. Next weeks were spent preparing. Jackson shared everything he knew: how to defend terrain, how to build low-energy shields, how to repair old Earth tech with scrap. Risa trained others in silent movement, in hiding and escaping. Her old life as a smuggler had taught her much, and Ailey, sweet little Ailey, drew pictures every day. She drew Jackson with alien ears. She drew Risa flying a human ship. She drew herself in the middle of them both, smiling. One night, Jackson received a message through an old comm signal. "Jackson, this is Darren, they're coming again. A real unit this time. Drones, kill orders confirmed, you need to vanish." He looked at Risa. She had already heard. "They want a war," she said. "Then they're going to see something they've never seen," Jackson replied. When the colony forces arrived at the canyon, they expected an easy fight. They were wrong. The moment they entered the scar, signals died. Drones lost connection. GPS flickered. Then came the ambushes, silent, fast, precise. Aliens melted out of rocks like shadows, weapons homemade but smart. Jackson led the defense like a ghost general, striking and vanishing, protecting without killing. He left messages behind. "Go back. We don't want war," but they didn't listen. A second team came. This time Jackson didn't hold back. The final battle was short, but unforgettable. Smoke rose from the edge of the canyon as the last drop ship pulled back. Inside the scar, not one child had been harmed. The colony leaders demanded to know who led the resistance. The answer was whispered across Duro 5, carried by traders and mechanics and fearful soldiers. A human, with the exiles. A man who fed a hungry alien child. Weeks later, a new order came from Earth HQ. "Stop operations. Duro 5 is under neutral watch. Human and alien zones will not mix. Maintain peace or lose funding." The colony backed down. No one wanted to admit it, but humanity had been stopped not by war, but by one man's kindness. In the rebuilt camp inside the scar, children laughed. Water flowed from a new filter system. The walls had solar lights. Food was grown again. Risa watched Ailey play with other kids. Jackson sat nearby, fixing a solar lamp. She walked over and handed him a drink. He looked up, smiling. "Feels like a real village now." "Because of you," she said. "No," he replied. "Because you believed it could be more than hiding." She sat beside him. "You didn't just save us. You gave us back something we lost." He raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Hope," she said softly. Ailey ran over, holding up a new drawing. It showed the three of them, standing tall in front of the stars. Underneath it she had written, "He fed my child, now we stand with him.